Alright, this is Cheeky Witch. I am using my camcorder, so let's pray that this actually works and my computer will let me load it. I'm going to try to start my Smokeless Smudge spray. I won't be finishing it because it does need to sit for a while. I would say at least a couple of weeks, just to get all of the herbs and stuff soaked into it so it actually works better. I'd say give it like a minimum of 2 weeks. You can do it longer if you would like. I'm going to do about 2 weeks probably because I'm impatient. And it kind of, I'm basically making like almost like a tincture. I'm not using alcohol. You could use either rubbing alcohol or like vodka. I would use a very high proof vodka if you're going to go that way. You're going to want something with like isopropyl, or which is rubbing alcohol, or actual like grain alcohol to preserve it. I'm actually going to use witch hazel, which is distilled and has alcohol in it, basically. I'm going to use it because witch hazel actually is really good. I actually wrote down what all of the herbs do as well, so I can tell you as we go along. Witch hazel is good for protecting from evil influences. It's also really good for your skin, but this isn't going to be for your skin, just saying. So I'm just using a mason jar. I actually got this for I think like $2 or $3 from Hobby Lobby. We'll sell them individually if you don't want a lot, or you can buy a case of them for canning and just use them for other stuff. Hobby Lobby does have half off of all glass and stuff every couple weeks or so, so just keep an eye on that. I also have my handy mortar and pestle. We'll probably just go down the list and go from there. I kind of just go by sight, so there's not really going to be any real measurements. You do you. You're welcome to use more or less of whatever you want or change things. I'm going off of what I'm doing this for, which is a friend who is having who's moving into an apartment, so I want it for a house blessing. So besides being cleansing and protecting, it's also going to be really good for money bringing, money drawing, peace and happiness, getting rid of negativity, changing negativity into positivity, which if I had any loose sweetgrass, I would add that as well, but I don't. I only have a sweetgrass braid, one of which I'm not going to destroy because it was a gift from one of my friends growing up. His mother is a high priestess, and she gave it to me when I decided to follow the craft. So that's in my car, and I'm not going to take anything out of it. I just bought a new sweetgrass braid, which is going to go in her gift, because I want to give her a whole braid, because I want to get one personally to put over my door, so that when I come in the door, it'll help me remove the negativity from like my job and just stress of life, and then I'll have more peace at home, is my idea. Anyway, tangent. Right now I'm going to add a few pinches of argamony. I do apologize if I pronounce things kind of funny, or if I say pronounce them wrong for some reason. I know most of them pretty well. I am from the Midwest, and apparently we say things really weird. I don't think we do, but whatever. And I got this from Mountain Rose Herbs, and I'm probably gonna order more from them because they are pretty decent priced. There's a local herbalist shop in Fargo called Tochi's Products, and I go and get like 90% of my herbs there, but they do not have argamony, and I really wanted it for, I had to do a reversal and binding on someone who shall remain nameless, but basically used to be a friend of mine, and she's also a witch. And she decided to lose her shit and is no longer around, thankfully. But she apparently was attempting to curse me. She's kind of one of those people that she says she's a witch, but she doesn't actually practice. She just says it, and then she'll curse you if she doesn't like you or whatever. I don't think there was much weight behind it, but I just kind of did it more to protect myself in case, and then to also bind her from doing anything stupid in the future, because you never know. Argamony is good for protection, psychic shielding, reducing the influence of others' negativity, banishing negativity in spirits, doing uncrossings and reversals, which is why I bought it, cleansing your aura, which is always good, and is also used to cleanse and consecrate tools. So I wanted this to be something she could use for that too, potentially. So, you know, so there's a couple pinches of that. I didn't grab my anise seed. We'll do that last. Oh well. Next is basil. Maybe. There we go. And if you're wondering about any of my jars, most of these I either, unless they're a mason jar, I got most of them thrifting for the most part. 2 of these are from Target in their dollar section, the little like slanted ones. And a couple of them are also from Hobby Lobby when they had a sale. This big one is actually from Hobby Lobby, but I noticed Dollar Tree actually carries them. Slightly smaller than this, but bigger than the other one. $3 at Target in their 1 and 3 section. This was $3 at Target in their 1 and 3 section. These were $1. You know, so a lot of these are kind of inexpensive little jars and stuff that I got that way. So this is actually an old pad thai sauce jar that actually already had a black lid. You know. I'm full of tangents. I haven't slept too much. I have ADHD, you know. So I'm going to use quite a bit of this as well because it's also very good. Just all around herb magically, but it's also really good for protection and purifying, which is kind of the main point of this. Basil is good for exorcism, so removing negativity, spirits, etc. Protecting, it's also used in flying, which from my understanding, I haven't done a lot of research on flying oils and stuff, but flying oils, herbs and stuff usually are good for like prophetic dreams, raising your psychic awareness, and that kind of stuff is my understanding. I could be wrong. Do your own research. I'm only one person. Caraway is the next thing, and when I first started, I could not get access to like unusual herbs or large amounts of herbs. They were very expensive because I had one local grocery store in a small town, which makes it more expensive. So I actually have a really tiny thing of caraway that I've had since I first started, because this is one of the first things I used. Anyway, just good sprinkling of caraway seeds. This is good for protecting from negativity. Anti-theft, which is another good thing for someone using in a new apartment. And also protection from illness. Next I'm going to put in catnip. I'm going to put a lot of that in there, but it's good for attracting good spirits and luck. And since she's a fellow witch, I'm also putting stuff in to help aid magic, raise psychic awareness, and aid in psychic development and that kind of thing. So that's why that's in there. It can also be used to attract love or with pet magic, but not what we're doing today. Next is chamomile, which is good for protection, purification, hex breaking, and attracting money. A lot of these herbs have other things that they do too. These were just the reasons I put them in this particular smudge spray. So, and you know, you don't have to go completely crazy if you don't have access to a lot of herbs, or you don't want to use a lot or a lot of anything in particular. You can use less herbs to the amount of like witch hazel and stuff you're making. It won't be as potent, it won't smell as strong, but it'll still work because the purpose is more your intent than the herbs themselves. Since I'm not doing this as a like I have a cleaning vinegar that I also make that maybe I'll do a video on, that you kind of need to be a little bit more potent with your herbs because you're also using them for physically cleansing, not just magically. Next is cinnamon. Find one that's already kind of open, because this would be easier to use cinnamon powder, but you know, I'm probably just gonna throw a couple sticks in there, honestly. Too lazy to grind up my cinnamon. I'll put one more in there for good luck. Okay. Why do I have cumin seeds over here? I grabbed cumin seeds instead of anise seeds. I'm special. You know. Okay, cinnamon, as we all know, is a good all-around herb. I use cinnamon in almost everything, honestly. And if nothing else, cinnamon is always good for protection. So it'll protect you from anything that might be going awry with whatever you're doing. And it's also really good for adding potency, which is one of the bigger reasons I'm using it. It raises vibrations, stimulates your psychic abilities, protection, money drawing, and healing. You can also use it for love. Let's see, we'll do some clove. I'm lazy, and I'm not going to grind up clove because it takes literally forever. I recommend, unless you don't have the money or you prefer doing like hand grinding it, to actually get clove powder. You can buy them separately. That, or I would recommend getting some kind of food processor that you're using just for magical purposes. You can have one for both, but be extra cautious what herbs you are putting in it, because a lot of magical herbs are also poisonous, are bad for certain people, have higher, like, allergic whatever. Like, I have my mugwort. You can consume mugwort, but it can induce menstruation. It can make menstruation heavier or worse, potentially, and it can actually cause miscarriages if you're pregnant. So I don't recommend actually consuming this, especially if you're a woman. If you do want to, if you want to use it for psychic abilities and whatever, I would consult a doctor. But just saying, like, there's things like that too. So always be careful when you're making stuff. Next I have dragon's blood, but I'm going to grind that separately so I can actually make it a powder. And dragon's blood is expensive, but thankfully my little herb shop actually carries dragon's blood, so I don't have to ship it. Oh, and dragon's blood is good for protection, driving away evil and negativity, increasing power, and also bringing peace and quiet in children, apparently. I didn't know, but, you know. This is actually eyebright powder. I would like to get the loose herb, but I cannot find the herb itself anywhere. I've tried Bulk Apothecary, Mountain Rose Herbs. They don't have it at all. My local place doesn't have eyebright at all. I found this on Amazon, and I had to buy it in 1-ounce pouches, and it was kind of insanely expensive. And then they only had the powder. So good luck finding eyebright. If you know of a place that sells eyebright in the, like, herb, not the powder, please let me know. I'm just going to use a little bit of this powder, and I'm just going to put it directly in since it's already powdered. And I like using a silver spoon. You don't need to use a silver spoon. I just like using a silver spoon. And there's actually a little local thrift store called Now and Then Shoppy here in Fargo that sells silver spoons for like $2 a piece, like actual silver spoons. So I have a bunch of them. But anyway. And I used the eyebright, which is for increasing your psychic abilities. And it's really good for opening your, like, third eye and crown chakras. So, you know. I also forgot my frankincense. I'm really unprepared today, apparently. I'll grab some frankincense at the end as well. Used for raising vibrations, drives off negativity and evil, and aiding in meditation and spiritual growth. Frankincense has been used forever. It's an amazing... I love the smell of frankincense as well. Next, I'll put in some lavender. And I have lavender bud in here. Lavender bud in here. And it smells absolutely amazing. I recommend actually putting some lavender in a tea ball and soaking it in your hot chocolate. It's amazing. 1, 2, 3. I'll need a little more. Lavender is good for peace, calm, sleep, warding off the evil eye, purification. Lavender I use in like 90% of my things, if at all possible. It's good for pretty much everything. I also work with Hecate, and lavender is apparently one of her herbs, as well as the whole mint family, and I'm obsessed with mint, so, you know. I've been saying that a lot. I'm really tired. I work night shift, and it's now like 8 p.m., and I haven't slept yet. Bear with me. The next one is lemongrass, and lemongrass is used for developing psychic abilities. I like it because it kind of makes me feel like it brings like happiness and energy and that kind of thing into things as well. And just helps it, honestly, lemon anything just helps really bring that energy and kind of a lightness to everything. I'm just going to put this directly in because you can't really grind lemongrass very well in the grass form, at least not in mortar and pestle. Too lazy, it'll still work, it's fine. Next is mint, which is kind of the same scenario with not wanting to grind it. Mint is good for calling good spirits, removing evil, and prosperity, among many, many things. And as you can tell, I use mint in literally everything. I drink mint tea on a regular basis. Right now this is a mixture of a little bit of peppermint and Egyptian mint, because the place I go to is out of Egyptian mint. It makes me mad. I need to get... Look, can you tell how it's like here? I need to get more mint. That's why I have the biggest jars for my mint. Because I use insane amounts of mint. Both magically and just in food. If you want to get me anything that you know, like mint, just anything mint. Next I'm going to put in my mugwort, which is used for psychic abilities as well as keeping away evil and evil spirits. I should get some more mugwort at some point. Nettle is next, and I actually recently got into nettle. I got it for that same binding thing that I was talking about, and apparently it's really good for people who are iron deficient. I haven't tried consuming it yet, but that would be good for me because I'm always iron deficient. But it's good for reversals and removing ghosts, and pretty much the reason I want to put this in here is because reversals are always... I don't really practice negative magic, but to me, reversals aren't negative because it's a reflection. You're putting up a protective barrier that bounces negativity, negativity expels curses, whatever people send to you, back on them. It basically just allows karma to happen without hurting you in the process. So that's always good to have something that'll help protect you more so in a way of bouncing it back, because then if that negativity goes back to that person, they're less likely to keep trying, keep hitting that protection that you have. I don't know. That's the way I see it anyway. I'm extremely unprepared. The next one is rosemary, which I have in a bush that is out on my balcony that I didn't grab any of. But it's good for cleansing, purification, removing negativity, receiving knowledge, and dispelling depression. So, mark which ones that I missed because I'm special, so I know which ones to grab. I'm probably not going to edit this all that much, to be honest, because I'm lazy and tired. We're almost to the end of the list, I promise. The next one is St. John's wort, which helps relieve mental stress and anguish. It's actually taken as a supplement to relieve depression. But again, this is why you need, like, I hate people who are like, it's herbs, it's natural, it's not going to hurt me. It still can hurt you. St. John's wort is a great thing. If you can use it as an antidepressant, good for you. Make sure you talk to a doctor about it, especially if you're a woman, because it can actually make birth control stop working. So it interferes with the way your body processes the pregnancy hormones and birth control so that it becomes ineffective. Just, yeah. I used to try to take this for antidepressant before I realized that, which is why I have it in pill form as opposed to powder form. But there's no reason for me to buy more if I have some. So I'm just going to open these and kind of get the powder out of them. Come on. Come on. Set that over there. St. John's wort's really good for just kind of getting the funk out of the area, which is why I'm using it in this, just to kind of help, you know, bring the energy and the vibration and the happiness into her new living situation, kind of help relieve some of the stress of your, you know, having to pay for bills and that kind of thing. Come on. Okay, next is wintergreen, which is good for removing hexes, also calls good spirits, and helps aid in magic. And then I'm actually, even though I'm using this witch hazel, which is which is a distilled extract, I'm going to also use some witch hazel's bark, which I also obviously got from Mountain Rose Herbs. I definitely recommend them if you don't have access to like a little herbal shop or anything like that, to try and, you know, they've been pretty good, and I've heard other people on YouTube and stuff have recommended them, so I definitely give them a try. Pretty much everything you have to get a minimum of 4 ounces though, so be aware of that. I think pretty much all the stuff that I got, I think witch hazel was the most expensive. It was like maybe $3, $4 for this whole thing. Like, you know, they're not at all unreasonable. And then I'm also going to add wormwood, which aids in developing psychic abilities, protects you from bewitchment, and is also used for summoning spirits. If I can get the jar open. There we go. Oof. A few of the things that I didn't actually write down that I'm going to be putting in. Obviously, white sage is like key. I'm going to do that separate from this though. Some black peppercorns. I'm actually going to use the whole ones. It'll be easier when I'm straining it out. You can use just regular crushed pepper like you get at the grocery store, and you can actually get like the bigger things of it at like Dollar Tree, and it works just fine. I'm also going to use, this is my own eggshell powder, which is from eggs I've actually eaten. I did find, I'm going to try and be able to get more eggshells and sell this on Etsy, because it's not that hard to make. It's just hard to get a lot of eggs. Eggs, of course, are really good for protection and purification. And they're also a really good natural fertilizer. So if you have a garden, you can actually crush up eggshells and put them in there. I'm also going to use, I'm choosing to use pink Himalayan salt instead of normal sea salt. I just prefer pink salt, especially for something like happiness, healing, because it's also pink, which to me is kind of love related. And it's actually kind of cool. This actually came in a glass jar with the cork, and I got it at TJ Maxx for $4, this big jar. So, you know, check things like that too, because I've actually found black salt, which I might grab and put a little bit in here, but like the lava salt, I found some of that there as well for like $2-3. I'm just gonna give this a light crust to kind of try to break up some of the like the chamomile flowers and that kind of thing. I'm not really grinding the leafy bits because it doesn't make a difference. I'm not trying to make a powder. If I was trying to do that, I would grind up like each thing individually, because it would be easier to do than trying to do it in this way. I'm just kind of trying to break it up a little bit. Then the other things that I have that are over here, this is actually Crossroads graveyard dirt. So it's dirt that was taken out of a crossroads inside of a graveyard, which both my friend and I work with Hecate, so that's doubly good for her. Also, graveyard dirt is really good for protection. Crossroads dirt you can kind of use that way too. This is often used for confusing enemies and stuff too. Like I said, I don't really do negative magic that much, but well, not really at all, just the reversal kind of thing. But anyway, so I was going to add a little bit of this to it as well. And then this is actually storm water that I recently got, because we had a storm. We get like perpetual rainstorms around here, so it's really easy for me to get storm water in the summer, especially as we go into fall. Whoa, making messes. I also forgot rose water. I am just a mess today. I'm going to try to get more, you know, get rid of, like, there's little roots and grass and stuff in here still, because I haven't really sifted this too much, so I'm going to just try to get a little bit of that out. You don't need much. This stuff is ridiculously potent, so I'm not going to use very much of it. Since this is going to be a room spray just to help smudge, I'm not concerned with the food safety of it, or even the skin safety of it. I don't want to use anything, like, I'm not using chili. You could use chili powder for helping smudge, especially if you're not, like, burning it. Don't burn chilies, bad idea, unless you want to go blind. Also, sprays, bad idea for the same reason. It basically makes mace, which is why I'm not using it, since this will be a spray form. But if you want to do, like, a cleansing, you want to use chili peppers, it's great. I just don't recommend doing anything that's going to burn, you know. I'm just going to kind of break up the white sage. I'm actually kind of sad because I've been growing mint and rosemary out on my balcony, and my mint just keeled over. And it wasn't like I wasn't taking care of it or anything like that. It was actually because somehow a caterpillar got on my 3rd floor balcony. And, I'll actually stick that in there. And, ate, like, my entire mint plant. I don't understand how that happened, but it happened. So, it was unfortunately unable to recover, so I'm going to have to get rid of it at some point here in the near future. And it's sad. I think that's it for everything that's not, like, liquid. So I'm going to go grab the few things that I forgot, and I should be back. Okay, it's me again. I grabbed a few of the things that I forgot. This is the black salt I was talking about. the up here. And it was only $3 for 6 ounces. So I'm going to put just a little bit of this. All this, the only difference between this and normal salt is it has activated charcoal in it. Yeah, so you have the protection benefit of that as well. And then this is just anise, which I don't think I said what anise does, so I can do that. Anise banishes nightmares, protection, dries off evil, averts evil eye, purification, and calling spirits and magic. I did add a little bit of the rosemary. My rosemary's not doing that well either, so I'm wondering if it's getting too cold at night and it's starting to like affect my plants. So I might have to start bringing them in either at night or putting them by my window. We'll see. I might not have plants for too long because it's fall. I'm in North Dakota. North Dakota and fall and plants in an apartment don't go well together. So we'll see. This is my frankincense. I'm just going to put a couple chunks of that in there. I'm not going to break it up really. Frankincense is also a pain to grind up, so this is another one I'd recommend getting as a powder if you're going to use it in a powder form a lot. This was an ounce. See, there's Tochi products. It was only like $3, so. The last thing I have for herb-wise is my dragon's blood. So I'll grind some of that up. No, I was going to maybe put some brick dust in there. I might do that afterwards. That's another thing you could add to this if you wanted to, would be brick dust. Red brick dust is really good for protection. The way that I kind of was told or read about that since it's from a brick, which is used to make a wall, that it can be used to help make a wall. Basically a protective energy kind of wall. So I actually have a brick that I found. It's kind of funny. I have a tendency that when I need or want something, that I will be able to just find it. Like, for instance, I was reading about brick dust. And I was like, oh man, I really need to get a brick. Maybe I should go see if I can find one somewhere. Like, you know, like my hometown has a old creamery there. The smokestack was taken down, and so there's a few bricks out there probably. I was like, I should go and see if I can get one of those. Like, that would be really good for you know, to be able to make brick dust out of, because I didn't want to go buy like a brick and then, I don't know, I just didn't feel like doing that. But it was kind of funny because I was literally thinking that. I went home with the intent of doing that at one point, and I went to the park that I've always gone to since I was little, and just, you know, to sit on the swings and just relax and enjoy it and whatever. And lo and behold, sitting in the sand underneath the swings where I usually am is a lone red brick. Just by itself, just chilling out. I'm like, oh, well, that's really convenient. I'm going to try and get as much of this out as I can. I did use quite a bit. I probably wouldn't use quite that much unless you really want to. I mean, you're welcome to do... This is loud. You're welcome to do whatever you want. It is yours, you know. Make it your own kind of thing. But since this stuff's kind of expensive, I would recommend trying not to overdo it like I kind of did, but that's okay. Definitely isn't hurting anything. It's just gonna make it a little pricier to make, which isn't the end of the world. Yeah, so that's pretty much it herb-wise. So as you can see, it's a good chunk. As you can see up here, it's a good chunk full. You know, it's about here. I'm probably gonna fill it to like here. I'm not gonna fill it all the way full. You can fill it as long as you have enough room, because you're gonna want to be able to shake it. So definitely leave at least a little bit of a gap. You don't have to make very much if you don't want to too. You're not like required to make this full jar of, you know. And a nice thing too with, ooh, that smells. Nice thing too with this, this is 16 fluid ounces. I need to go, I should have bought more of this when I was at Walmart. Oh well. It's only like $1.44 for this container or whatever. So it's not, you know, terribly expensive. So that helps too. I'm also going to add, I went and got my rose water. I recommend go to international markets. Go to like an Indian market or an Asian market and look for this. Especially Indian markets, because they use it to make baklava. And this was seriously like 2 bottles. 2 bottles. I'm too tired. It was like $2 or $2.50 or something for this whole bottle. 10.5 fluid ounces of rose water. With no preservatives, all natural and everything. You know, so I recommend trying to do that instead of like buying the really expensive rose oils that are for magic purposes, because I saw one online that was like 2 ounces for like $15. I'm like, no, I'd rather spend $2 on 10 ounces and actually not have to go get it all the time. And I'm using this just kind of to have both diluted a little bit, but also to have the magical energy of the rose in there without having to have rose petals, because that would be a whole trip to go find a rose. I just don't feel like dealing with it, to be honest. But rose water works just as well. It also will add the scent of rose, which will kind of sweeten everything and make it a little less like deeply earthy. Which if you like it earthy, it's fine. I personally do. But I'll make it smell a little bit nicer. And then this is just my storm water. I'm going to try not to spill everything, and I'm just going to top this off with some storm water. That's probably enough, honestly. What I'm going to do once this is done is I'm going to put it in like those cobalt tincture bottles. I'm going to put in one of those with the sprayer top. And then I also got a couple of the small like perfume sample glass bottles, the little ones. I'm going to fill a couple of those carefully and have those for like portable ones. So you can use those like to have in your purse if you need to cleanse when you're not home. And that too, that way you can kind of smudge yourself when you're not necessarily at home. Or if you're at someone else's place, or just to have extras around or whatever. So just give it a real good shake. And like I said, I'd probably leave this for about 2 weeks. Since this is the only thing I'm doing like this right now, I don't really feel it necessary to label it, because if I can't figure out what it is, that's kind of sad. But definitely label your stuff, especially with the date, so you know when it's ready. You know, you don't have to, but it's very helpful. I would try to shake this at least once a day for a good bit. You know, just make sure you're keeping it going so you're breaking up so it doesn't clump all the herbs and they're not getting to the liquid. That way you can already tell it's kind of, because all the powders have made this really murky, so it is infusing. That's basically all you're going to do. Do that for about 2 weeks or so, and then strain it. I actually bought coffee filters. I'm going to try that method of straining instead of using cheesecloth, because I found with some of the oils I've done, every time I use cheesecloth, I have to run it through 2, 3, 4 times, and there's still like small chunks of herbs and whatever that I've gotten through. So I'm going to try the coffee filters instead. I actually forgot, I'm going to actually add a piece of quartz. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to actually add this piece of quartz in there. This is actually a piece of quartz from Yellowstone. It came from a box of stones that my dad gave me when I was really little. And he actually gave me a really big piece of quartz, like a quartz cluster, that is from Yellowstone, as well as an obsidian from Yellowstone, and a piece of petrified wood from the petrified forest. So I have some cool stuff, to be honest, because you can't get those anymore, because you're not allowed to take from, what is it called? State parks. There we go. I need to take some. I need to sleep a little bit. Since I did put the crystal in, if you're shaking and you have crystals in here, be really careful to kind of do this and not like shake it really vigorously, because that is hard enough that it could potentially damage your glass, and you don't want that, especially when you have something in it. So I'm just kind of mixing it up. I'll probably do this for a while before I set it down. You can charge it on your altar. You can charge it by moonlight if you want to make it stronger. Definitely when you do use this, be careful what you're spraying it on, because some of these like herbs are dark enough, and there's salt and stuff in here. So if you spray it like directly on furniture, fabric, paint, anything like wood, whatever, it could potentially damage it, especially with the salt. So just be really careful when spraying this, that you spray it in the air. Make sure you're using something that sprays enough that it's actually a fine mist, so you're not like soaking anything in it too much, unless, you know, you're okay with seeing if it'll work or not. And just kind of use reasonable caution with that, especially since it also has rubbing alcohol, which is very drying. And like I said, this is rubbing alcohol. There's dirt in here. This is not consumable. If you make this, don't try to eat it, please. But anyway, so that's basically it. I'll probably try and remember to make an update video once this is done. And I'll probably also show it anyway, because I'll probably show that house blessing basket kit thing that I'm going to make. Because I'll probably show making the candle, and then show like it finished. So, alright, you guys have a wonderful time. Blessed be. I'll also add, you guys can follow me on Instagram if you want. My name is Kirin Tsuki, which is KIRIN.TSUKI. So, which is Japanese, in case you're wondering. I'll probably do like a little story thing on why I use that name at some point. We'll see. Then my Etsy shop is a little bit of madness. At some point, I'm probably going to try to see if I can figure out how to put a link or whatever in the descriptions of some of my videos so you can go to it. I only have a few like offering bowls that I made, and like a book that I got secondhand that like Savers had like 6 copies of it. I only got 2 because I went and bought one, and I was like, I don't need any of the others. And then they had half off everything, and it was still there, so I bought another one for a little bit cheaper. And I thought I'd give it as a gift or resell it. So, we'll see. I am going to go to bed because I'm very tired. So, you guys have a wonderful night or day or whatever time it is you're watching this. Blessed be. Bye.